all of our memos, right? We're just going to be,
I'm with you.
this is what you're doing?
I mean, we're going to do our best. Continental Mill is a big project. Definitely a summer in Maine MILL.
I'm going to try to swim the fat as much as possible, but there's a lot of, there's a lot to do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lucy Bisson, and I'm the chairperson of the Lewiston Planning Board. And I welcome you all this evening and call this meeting to order. And I'll call the roll because our secretary is unavailable this evening. Roger Dupree.
Here.
Mark Roy.
Here.
Michael Marcotte.
Present.
Shanna Cox.
Here.
Lucy Bisson, present. Okay, and for the record, for staff, we have John Connor, the Director of Planning and the Department, Shelley Norton, the Assistant Director, Craig Thibault, City Planner, and Linda Tripp, Administrative Assistant. Okay, are there any adjustments to the agenda, Shelley?
Sorry, no.
And correspondence, I noticed two pieces of, two letters from, let's see.
There's a letter related to the 745
Yep,
Webster Street.
745 Webster Street, and the second item is for relating to the Continental Mill.
Yes,
So-
and that's actually two items. One is from the applicant asking for slightly different wording on a condition of approval than what staff had suggested. And the second, Craig can talk about it when we get there, but it's from the Complete Streets Committee, which met last week and had a few comments on the application.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. That would be a third one submitted by email and the two that she was referencing.
Three total.
Yes. So I didn't know. if
Okay,
you-
yes, thank
There
you.
you go.
Thank you. All right, so we have three items. Do we need to make a motion to accept these or anything? Just read them into the record. Okay, great. All right, public hearings. All right, first public hearings. SeniorsPlus has submitted a development review application for the construction of a new 11,900 square foot building in order to expand their existing services, including a kitchen for the serving and distribution of meals, office space, and classroom space for seniors, on a 1.28 acre parcel at 14 Mollison Way. They are requesting to continue this item at a future meeting. Does the applicant want to say something, or do we just vote to continue it?
The applicant is in the front row. If you wanted him to make the request, and there might be a date that he's looking to continue
Okay.
to.
Yes, please. Could you speak into the microphone and state your name and identify yourself? And
Yeah. Good evening. Adam Lemire, architect at Platts Associates, and I'm the architect on SeniorsPlus at 14 Mollison Way. And I'd like to request that the item be continued to the July 22nd meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue item A for SeniorsPlus to the July 22nd meeting.
Second.
okay, Roger? Second. Okay, we already got a second. Yep, and any further discussion? Okay, Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Okay,
Thank you.
you're continued till the 22nd.
Appreciate it.
All right, item number 2, you might as well just stay there, because since
Thank
you're...
you.
Maine MILL has submitted a development review application for the development of a museum, including refurbishment of an existing 8,167 square foot building and 3,153 square foot addition on a 2.14 acre parcel at 1 Beech Street. They are requesting to continue this item to a future meeting.
This is Adam Lemire again from Platts Associates. On behalf of Maine MILL, I'd like to request that the item be continued also to July 22nd.
Okay. And,
So move.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? No. Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson? Yes. Okay.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
see you on the 22nd.
Appreciate it.
See you.
Thank you.
Actually, I won't see you on the 22nd. But the board will.
I'll be here.
Yep, she'll be holding the reins. She's gonna do an excellent job. Okay, see you then. Okay, next on the agenda is SA and NA LLC and A&T Trust LLC have submitted a reexamination and reapproval request for Phase 2 of Sanctuary Estates subdivision, which includes the remaining 14 lots on 60.2 acres located at 131 Hogan Road. Now, I'd like to make it known to you gentlemen that we're only 5 on the board tonight. It takes 4 positive votes to pass something. So if it is up to you, if you feel that you would like to postpone it to the next meeting, or, you know, I don't, we just want to give you that ability if that's possible.
And to add a note of clarification, we'd love to still see your presentation, have full discussion, and then make a determination about a vote or continuance.
Yeah, perhaps if we were feeling that it's not going to go our way, we might ask to table at the last moment.
Yeah, and that, yeah, you don't have to do it right now. You
Yeah.
can do it
Yep.
after we discuss. Okay. Let's see here. Craig, okay, Craig, all messed up tonight. I don't know why. Craig, could we have you give us the information, please?
Certainly. So this is a project that was approved back in 2019. The project was not completed, and they're here again asking to get it a new approval. We have had a chance as staff to review the application. There have been, you know, they are not proposing any changes. And the only notes that we have made are some minor space and bulk requirements that have changed that have actually, they have provided more flexibility, so there's not any concern on that end. And again, they're not proposing any changes regarding their own space and bulk requirements or anything that have been proposed from the previous application. Staff also note, and this is on the second page of the memo, staff also note that the proposed cluster space and bulk criteria for required front and side setbacks have been reduced beyond the standard allowances for single-family cluster developments found in Article 13, Section 7, additional standards for single-family cluster developments. However, the ordinances from 2019 and from now both allow for the planning board to approve development proposals that do not meet the space and bulk standards requirement to, in order to promote cluster development. You know, so that hasn't changed either. You are free to sort of make that same determination that the board made back in 2019. And again, it was really only a minor change of changing the side setbacks, and I think from 5 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other to, I think, 5 and 5. So that's sort of the only real change that we've noticed. Staff recommend that the board review these criteria found on Note 6 of the subdivision plan, and if the board has no concerns, recommend the reapproval of the Sanctuary Estates subdivision with the following conditions of approval, and these were updated from the conditions placed on the 2019 approval. Condition 1, that a note is added to the preliminary subdivision plan, Sanctuary Estates Phase 2, stating that prior to the certificate of occupancy being issued, evidence shall be provided of a final inspection of the stormwater system by the designing engineer, along with a written statement indicating the stormwater system and all site improvements have been completed according to the approved plans. Note 2, a new or revised homeowners association agreement that incorporates Phase 2 is submitted to staff prior to the recording of the subdivision at the Registry of Deeds. And Condition 3, that Note 6 of the subdivision plan, space and bulk criteria, be updated to reflect the above-mentioned changes to the space and bulk standards of Article 11 district regulations. And again, those changes were the maximum impervious surface ratio was increased to 35%, and the minimum front, side, and rear yard requirement for all uses has been eliminated. So we got rid of those, I believe, last year. Those are the only conditions that we have, those three. And at the bottom, you'll see an action, sort of a motion language.
Okay, thank you. And yes?
I do
Ms.
have a
Cox?
question for Craig,
Yep,
if that's all right.
yep, absolutely.
On the third condition that you'd like placed, I'd like to just clarify for my own understanding, and then if I do understand it correctly, maybe make a suggestion. It feels like we're being asked to make a permanent change to note 6 in our space and bulk table.
That's right. So in their chart, sorry, in their site plan, they have, comments in note 6. They mention they refer to existing space and bulk standards, and those are from 2019. That would just be updated to reflect the current standards.
Yeah, so maybe it's just the language here, Craig, because I think I understand the intent. But the way it's worded, it feels like we're being asked as a condition to make changes to our space and bulk table, not the notes of their plans.
Oh, sure.
And I didn't think that was your intention. If it was, would want to handle that separately. To reflect the above-mentioned changes to the space and bulk standards of Article 11 district regulations. And what you want is to update this application relative to note 6 to the current space and bulk as noted above.
Absolutely. I can see the mix-up.
Okay.
Great.
Yes, Michael?
I had a concern about the same note 6, and I was taking it from a different angle, I guess, or perspective. I was just simply going to ask, maybe it's just the way that my thinking is the same, but coming in from a different perspective. I was going to ask if the changes to the current plans from the previous plans were still within our space and bulk criteria. And like a second, a B, did the space and bulk criteria change by action of the planning board between the first approval and this one, and therefore the request is something that today they could request, where they might not have back in 2019 or whenever it was?
It's possible. So in their original 2019 site plan, it does show a rear yard buffer of 30 feet. So if they wanted to now, they could show they could eliminate that. They could show a setback of, and I apologize, I don't have the top of my head, but it would be reduced from 30 feet to maybe 15 or 10 feet, depending on what the existing space and bulk standards are. They have not made that change in their site plan, but if they wanted to, there was some mention of tabling this and coming back. If they wanted to make those changes to provide themselves more flexibility, they would have that. They have that option in our current space and bulk standards.
Okay, so simply saying that note 6 of subdivision plan space and bulk criteria be updated to reflect the above-mentioned changes. So the above-mentioned changes are permissible at this time. It's just that the plans didn't have those specs from 2019, but they're asking for it now.
I believe I follow you, and I
Okay.
believe that's correct.
Therefore, I have no issue
Okay, great.
on that.
Roger?
Craig, what was the reasoning for changing the setbacks?
Well, that happened back in, I believe it was maybe 2022, late 2022. And honestly, it's a little before my time. I might
Roger,
have to
we workshopped that over a period of times when we were working with the council to look for consistency and simplifying of all of the things. And if I recall that conversation, we were looking to ensure that things were a little more standard and that we allowed smartly some density, particularly knowing that some of the new 2 dwellings per property rules were coming our way. But we did it kind of comprehensively and outside of a request for any applicant.
Okay.
Late 22, early 23 even?
Yeah, something like that.
I was here, so it was.
Yeah.
It was in 22. I don't remember when, probably mid-late 22. Yeah, and it was, we definitely looked at a number of districts and made changes, mostly to allow greater flexibility with development and to allow greater density potentially, so.
Yeah. Okay. You all set, Raj?
Well, the only thing I was concerned about is the fact that you already have an existing plan that's in phase 1, and now you change the setback for section 2 or phase 2. You know, is there gonna be some animosity with the people in phase 1 against the people in phase 2 for the size of the lots?
If they're too, yeah.
Well, I think what, it's, they have the possibility to do it, but they haven't done it on the plan. So let's check with the applicant, and we can ask them that question. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you identify yourselves, gentlemen, and
Yes.
let's have a chat?
My name is Jeff Amos. I'm an engineer with Teradyne Consultants, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. His name is Sadiq. Just to kind of get to the issue at hand, we're certainly happy to update the space and bulk note to whatever's current. We're happy to keep the 30-foot exterior buffers. The plan doesn't change. When we were first permitting this, there was concern just from the abutters at large that there would be eventually, if someone developed the land on either side, that there wouldn't be any kind of buffer remaining. They wanted that at the time. The 30-foot exterior buffer doesn't affect the number of lots or lot sizes. And so I think all we're talking about at this point is increasing the impervious surface ratio from 20% to 35%, which is fine. I don't think we need it, but we're happy to have that on there. And then it's the side and front setbacks. I think we had set them at 5 feet. I believe it might be a 5-foot minimum, 5 on 1. 10. We're happy to adjust that. It won't change the number of lots or the lot sizes. The lot boundaries are going to stay the same. It would just be the setback note that would be updated, and we're completely fine updating that. When we submitted this, it was not known that those had changed, so that's why it wasn't updated. But we're happy to comply as a condition of approval, hopefully, and when we come back with the plan to sign, the note will be updated.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Michael?
Not really a question, but I do like the fact that I found with the loose papers a financial letter of capacity. The other board members know what I'm talking about from past meetings. And I like the fact that you have this nice little packet here with all the tabs on, because that makes it easy to find the financial capacity in most cases. And I looked in there, and when I was going through the multiple items on our agenda, I must have been thinking there were 6 items on the agenda instead of something like 3. And I said, so who has a financial capacity where it's just a couple of paragraphs of commentary? And I said, okay, I'm not liking this one, but then I realized it was the same one where this did exist. So I thank you for that. And that would have been probably my only real concern tonight if it wasn't there.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? Yes, Sharon.
I have a last question, and it seems like we're there because I don't want to muddy the waters. But
Yeah.
As somebody who participated in the changes in the setback rules and looking at the type of subdivision that you are creating, and this question might be for you, Sadiq, as much as you, is the goal with a shorter 5-foot setback to have the houses feel a little more neighborhood friendly, kind of on the quiet street? Would that have been the goal from it?
So Sadiq wasn't the original applicant in this.
Good point.
It was the original owner is now deceased and it went to auction, and so Sadiq picked up the Rainier Phase 1 and Phase 2. And fantastically so, Phase 1 was kind of left at a 3/4 point in construction and just sat there for years, at which point Sadiq has come in and now it's finished and part of its public street. And anyway, the only reason it was 5 was I think at the time the standard lot allowed for a 10-foot side setback, and the cluster development allowed that to be cut in half. And so it was cut in half across the board, and the board approved that. So there was no magic to it. It doesn't need to be 5 feet. 5 and 10. It's
Thanks, and it's not about your application. I'm looking for feedback from the
I just want to let you know, my name is Sadiq Sheikh. I live in Massachusetts, but some reason why I've been doing business with the Lewiston since 2001.
Because we're great is why, but go on.
And I have I have known in the city for a long time. All the staff, especially Lincoln, Shelley, and other things, come quite often. I used to own Super 8, sold it. I still have another motel and multiple properties in Lewiston. I'm a great believer in Lewiston. And we had opportunity, I sold the motels in Winthrop and one of the other Silence partners, and we came up with all the money, cash, to purchase this property. And we came up all this pawn work and other thing, we paid our own money. We do not have any mortgage.
Wow.
So what we're trying to do this situation when it's financially, we intend to complete the project because we like the city of Lewiston. And I'm fortunate to have the Jeff is my side.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. We've just been reviewing standards for a whole
Right.
host of things and looking for relevance, so I was just curious about the
Okay.
thoughts behind it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So, since this is a public hearing, I will open it up to the public. And if someone from the public wishes to speak, they would go to the podium. You will please state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes to make comments for or against the project. So I will open it up to the public. And does anyone in the public wish to make any comments? Apparently not, so.
Nice when they nod no.
Yeah, I love it when they nod no. And so in that case, I will close it and bring it back to the board and further discussion, or I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Absolutely.
Make a motion that the application submitted by Teradyne Consultants LLC on behalf of SANNA LLC and A&T Trust LLC meets all of the necessary standards contained in the Zoning and Land Use Code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4, Approval Criteria, Section 5, Coordination with State Subdivision Law, and Section 11. Expiration of approval and the approval for the completion of the 14-lot, single-family cluster subdivision and new 1,350-foot road built to city standards constituting Phase 2 of the Sanctuary Estates subdivision be granted with the following conditions. 1, a note is added to the preliminary subdivision plan, Sanctuary Estates Phase 2, stating that prior to any certificate of occupancy being issued, evidence shall be provided for a final inspection of the stormwater system by the designing engineer, along with a written statement indicating the stormwater system and all site improvements have been completed according to the approved plans. 2, a new or revised homeowners association agreement that incorporates Phase 2 is submitted to staff prior to the recording of the subdivision at the Registry of Deeds. And 3, Note 6 of the subdivision plan space and bulk criteria be updated to reflect the above-mentioned changes to the bulk, space and bulk standards of Article 11 District Regulations.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, Roger, any further discussion? Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Good luck.
Thanks for investing in Lewiston.
Yes, thank you, absolutely. Okay, next public hearing is the Continental Mill LLC has submitted a development review application for the redevelopment of the Continental Mill at 2 Cedar Street, including the creation of 377 new dwelling units, 20,000 square feet of commercial office space, 20,000 square feet of light industrial space, and 5,000 square feet of restaurant space, all within the existing structures. And Craig.
So we've got the Continental Mill, 2 Cedar Street, 9.2 acres, approximately 450,000 square feet in total floor area. The applicant has proposed some site improvements, and the parking redesign and other site improvements will result in actually in a decrease of the proposed impervious surface and building footprint. The board started review of this project at its April 22nd, 2024 meeting and continued the review to the June to this meeting. The property is located, the underlying zoning district is the riverfront zone, and the property is located actually in a contract zone stating that it is in the Mill zoning district. It is also located within the shoreland zoning, flood hazard area, or a small portion of it, historic district, and design district overlays. All of those overlays have been reviewed during this review process, and they have all been vetted out and checked out. There are no concerns regarding those conditions. Additionally, all proposed uses on the property are allowed as permitted uses in the mill district. Turning to parking. So the project has proposed 287 on-site parking spaces and anticipates contracting for an additional 280 parking spaces at the Chestnut Street garage. Due to the historic nature of the property, of the structure, no additional parking spaces shall be required for any structure that has been designated as significant for historic preservation under Article 15 of this code that is proposed for reuse. So in this instance, they're providing additional parking. That's all great. It's all gravy. Traffic movement permit. So the project is expected to generate 230 a.m. peak hour trips and 254 p.m. peak hour trips, and the applicant has submitted a traffic movement permit application. Due to the location of the project, its proximity to Auburn, and the anticipation that this project will impact traffic flows in both cities, the approval, even though we do have delegated review authority in most situations, approval in this case must be granted by MDOT instead of the city. The applicant is preparing to submit the movement permit for MDOT review currently, and in the meantime, between then, in the last few months, I'll say there have been several scoping meetings, including the City of Auburn, MDOT, the applicant's consultant. Every appropriate party has been involved. Because the review is being done by MDOT, staff recommends a condition of approval that the applicant receive a traffic movement permit and complete all mitigation measures required by MDOT prior to the issuance of a building permit.
I'm just going to jump in and say that the applicant requested a slight different wording, which you have in front of you for that condition.
Projects related to the Riverfront Island Master Plan. Public Works has also provided comments to the applicant. The site plan shown in the application includes improvements that are referenced in drawings. These include a viewing platform and a lumber pile plaza, and these are improvements that the applicant has requested, but the city has not yet agreed to be agreed upon or has been funded. Staff recommends that this be clarified either by removing these improvements from the plan or making a note on the plan that these improvements remain optional. Utilities. Staff recommend a condition of approval that the applicant provide size specifications for the water meters in order to determine impact fees and to provide an access easement for the purpose of reaching each of these water meters. This came from Public Works from their review. Other site improvements related to the RIMP. The comments provided during the staff review period, those reflect an ongoing discussion between the applicant, Public Works, and Economic and Community Development regarding proposed improvements that include the potential repair of tail races and the capping of penstocks at the north side of the building. These parties are in discussion, again, Economic and Community Development, Public Works, and the applicant, are in discussions on the creation of a tax increment financing district that will be used to finance any changes, but language has not been finalized with the City Council. So the board can request that these site improvements be removed from the plan or that a note be added clarifying responsibility for the improvements. Landscaping and parking. The applicant, they've provided a landscaping plan. This plan would have required narrowing the travel surface along Cedar Street. It would be basically expanding the about 3 or 4 feet their parking area into the sidewalk, into the right-of-way. Public Works has provided the comment regarding this. They were unable, during the period of review for this project, to find a way to make this work. They recommend either that the improvements be removed from the plan, or that parking on the site be removed to accommodate this. And then turning to the Riverfront Island Master Plan. So the Riverfront Island Master Plan proposed widening the road right-of-way into the Continental Mill, as opposed to what's the opposite of what's being proposed, to accommodate a planted buffer between the bike lane and the riverwalk/sidewalk. I believe we've also attached page 57 of the Riverfront Island Master Plan, which sort of shows a sort of the goal of expanding that area, and I believe it would have sort of taken over some of the or sort of shortened some of that parking area. The current plan shows trees spaced less frequently where there are opportunities for islands without the reduction of parking spaces. Staff recommends that the removal of 2 parking spaces along Cedar Street would allow the required street trees to be spaced more closely together to come more closely into compliance with the ordinance requirements of 50 feet spacing. It's basically to group them together rather than just more an even spread. So we'd have 2 trees in an island, and then the board should discuss this with the applicant to determine whether a waiver is appropriate, and a waiver is within your ability under Article 13, Section 3G7, and that language is provided there. I'll just point out that it says, when it determines, and this is the waiver language, when it determines that because of the size of the project or circumstances of the site, such requirements would not be applicable or would be an unnecessary burden upon the applicant, and that such modification or waiver would not adversely affect the abutting landowners or the general health, safety, and welfare of the city. At the time this staff review was printed, the applicant was preparing a revision to their landscaping plan to remove the street trees entirely or modify the layout to reduce parking lot impacts so that they could comply with the requirement that Cedar Street width not be impacted. If requested, a motion to approve or deny the waiver request from the review criteria of Article 13, Section 4, Q, landscaping for the portion of the lot along Cedar Street pursuant to Article 13, Section 3G7. I apologize, that was a sample motion for a potential waiver. List of approvals, staff recommendations. So staff recommend approval of the project with the following conditions. There are 4 conditions. The applicant receives a traffic movement permit and completes all mitigation measures required by MDOT prior to the issuance of a building permit. And there may have been some sort of tweaking of that language. So the applicant, I'll read that again. The applicant receives a traffic movement permit from MDOT prior to issuance of a building permit and completes all required mitigation measures prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. And that, what I just read was from the correspondence that Shelley provided you. Condition 2, the applicant provides size specifications for the water meters in order to determine impact fees and provides an access easement for the purpose of reaching each of these water meters. Condition 3, that the applicant pay any impact fees required prior to the issuance of permits. And condition 4, the applicant updates the landscaping plan and all other applicable plans to reflect existing conditions of the right-of-way on Cedar Street. And again, that last condition, you know, the plan they provided sort of narrowed the existing right-of-way.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question because I'm a rather visual person. And this, you know, narrowing of the right-of-way, narrowing of the parking, narrowing of, you know, more trees, less trees. Could we see some graphics? And at the same time, can we also discuss what the streets committee, the Safe Streets Committee, or whatever they're called, Complete Streets Committee discussed, you know, the email that we received it related to all of this, the same stuff. So if we could see visually what, that would help me to be able to come to some kind of, and then we can move on to other considerations. Roger, you had questions as well?
Yes, Craig, way back when we were discussing the Picker House, a crosswalk was mentioned by the Bernard Lown Bridge to go over to the park on River Road. Now, there was two things that happened there. Is one with the Cedar Street crosswalk, as well as the one with Bernard Lown. Nothing is indicated here that MDOT is looking at that, or is that in relation to the people with either Picker House or the Continental Mill?
I think that question came up also with the Complete Streets Committee as their first question. So this was provided to staff today, and so I'll just run through that now, actually, if you don't mind.
Well, actually, can I ask a follow-up question
Yeah.
to Lucy's suggestion,
Yeah.
which is, because I also am a visual person, and I
Yeah.
believe the letter in response to staff comments indicated that those trees had been moved and that there was updated. And so I'm wondering if it makes
Yeah.
sense for us to see the
Right.
applicant's things and then discuss the complete streets when we've got a sense of the project.
Sure.
Before you launch into
Yeah,
reviewing
no,
that. Is
absolutely.
that fair?
It
It
is.
just sounds like the applicant had addressed some of this and that we might get the visuals that we're looking for.
No, that makes sense. And just to point out, while the applicant is looking for something here, the landscaping plans that were provided in your packets are the update. So we received those right before the packets went out.
Do you have a page reference for it?
Right, but isn't the,
So
aren't those?
there's three sets of drawings, and one of them is just landscaping. So when you open it, you'll see trees, and in the bottom right, you'll see it says L1.0.
Okay, it's this one here.
And then
There's a separate,
there's,
it's a separate bunch.
That first page is an overall schematic, and then
Right.
there's a more detailed page on page L13, which is the fourth sheet, sorry, which shows you a little more detail about what they're proposing along Cedar Street. So at the intersection with Oxford Street, there would be a planted area, and then it would be just essentially pavement. It looks like up to the property line because it's very close. Then there's a crosswalk inside their parking lot, and they would put 2 trees adjacent to that. And then after that point, it widens enough for them to put small shrubs in, and continue on the, city side, continue with a shrub planting and trees. What Craig's suggestion was that perhaps one street tree on either side of that walkway could be sort of spaced equally distant, so that you would lose 2 parking spaces, one on each side, halfway between the street tree on Oxford Street and the street tree with the crosswalk, let's say, and then again, equidistance between that one and the one further down. So you'd have those spaced a little more frequently along the street than they are right now.
Okay, so you're saying between the two trees on the corner of Oxford and Cedar and the one where the crosswalk is, the 2 trees there would be a tree like in between there?
Yeah, so what I was, what the staff review was suggesting was like a tree here, and then.
Right, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And not very well, apparently, but, But, and didn't, you know, last time when we were talking Picker House, relating to what Roger was asking about the crosswalk, this little drawing that we have from there, isn't that what MDOT ended up deciding, that they would not put a crosswalk directly after the bridge? That people would have to do the river walk and walk up the street to the corner of Oxford Street, cross there, and then come back down to the river walk? Isn't that what's actually going to happen? Honestly, people are going to cross without the crosswalk. I honestly, you know,
Yeah.
people aren't going to walk,
And
you
in
know.
30 years, we'll be talking about putting it under the bridge like we're doing right now in another
Yeah.
spot.
Right, so, yeah.
Yes, so I can't speak to what DOT has looked at, but I will say when the engineering team, as part of the Riverfront Island Master Plan consultant team, looked at this, they really did want to pull it closer to the bridge, and they couldn't find a safe way to do that. So their recommendation was to leave that crossing beacon where it is at Oxford Street because of the curve in the road,
Yeah.
because of how the bridge.
Oh,
you know,
I
the
understand
angle the
that
bridge
it's
is
not
at,
safe,
it's
but
not
people are
safe.
gonna cross
So
there
the-
anyways.
Yeah, so there isn't really,
Yeah.
there really isn't an opportunity to move that closer as a, you know, designated
Right,
crossing.
right. So, okay, so gentlemen, would you like to identify yourself, speak into the microphone, tell us your name and your address, and talk to us about the landscaping? Let's continue on just this part, and then we can move on to other areas.
Sure, I'll jump in. Hi, I'm Matt Asia from Chinburg Properties, Vice President of Development and Asset Management. I don't know. Go ahead, Mike.
Sure, yeah, I'm Mike Tadema Wieland. I'm a civil engineer with Teradyne Consultants. So this is a bit of a tricky spot on the site. If you folks are familiar with this area, which I'm sure you drive by all the time, we've got a center median, and we've got on each side a travel lane, and a curb and a sidewalk, and then almost immediately right into parking on the Continental Mill site. There's a metal guardrail there, and that's kind of the existing condition. There are some existing trees in that area. They're kind of in the middle of the pavement, and they're breaking up the pavement, and they're not in great shape. And those are proposed to be removed as a result of that, of the existing condition that's out there. The original proposal that was included last time we were here attempted to do what sort of the master plan envisioned, which was create a nice wide sidewalk, create a landscaped area that would allow some plantings to screen the parking and create some separation between the sidewalk and the Continental Mill site. And the way we're proposing to accomplish that was to move the curb farther into the right-of-way and make some improvements within the right-of-way to accomplish that. The alternative would be to create that landscape strip on the Continental Mill site. And so what happens if that were carried out would be this entire row of parking would be eliminated, unfortunately. It's that portion of the site is quite tight. I'll take you this. So this is what's on the screen now is the entire master plan, and the area we're talking about is down at the bottom of the page. And so today there's head-in parking, 90-degree parking facing Cedar Street. There's a drive aisle, and there's another row of parking opposite that. You can see the location of these existing buildings relative to Cedar Street really are limiting our ability to deviate much from this. You know what I mean? This parking, as proposed, is compact spaces. So these are 15-foot long parking spaces, which the ordinance allows a certain percent of the overall parking to be, then a 22-foot drive aisle, which also meets the standard, and then another 15-foot row of parking. And as you can see, you're very close at that point to this existing building. We were able to fit in a small stone drip edge to catch stormwater runoff falling off the roof, and then again a very small landscape area in front of that building. But we really don't have any ability to push this parking any more off Cedar Street without losing, I think this is 38 parking spaces here. And could we gain a few back with some creativity? Maybe, but I still think we'd be losing more than 30 parking spaces if we were to create that landscape strip on the Continental Mill site. And with 377 new apartments and quite a bit of commercial space as well, and future plans for more development on the site, the applicant is trying to develop as much parking on this site as possible. And to them, losing that parking makes the site very difficult, and would require them to really lease more spaces from the city up in the garage, but that's 500 feet away. So it's really much preferable, a much preferable situation for the applicant to do what's shown on the current plans that you have in front of you, and that would require a waiver, we believe, and that's the request as it stands today.
Okay. Does anybody want to have them questions regarding the parking, and then we'll let them move on? Or yes, Roger.
The Picker House parking has already been allocated. Where is that?
So, now correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Picker House has 65 parking spaces allocated to it. There are a number of ADA spaces right around the Picker House, you know, right in front of the Picker House. I think there's 13 or so ADA spaces, and the remaining spaces that make up the remainder of that 65, they're not defined, so it's kind of a shared parking scheme. So they haven't been allocated as Picker House Lofts parking spaces, but they are, the folks who own the residents of the Picker House Lofts have the right to 65 total spaces on the site.
Isn't there going to be a little conflict between that and the 377 people in there?
So you want to,
Yeah, well,
that as an operations.
Operationally, what we find is shared parking works well. How many spaces total are there, Mike?
There are
290?
total 287.
287 spaces total. So in other situations where we have neighbors sharing parking, similar scenario where it's a condominium development on a site, we find that there's one in Portsmouth that I'm thinking of. This is going to sound a little bit glib, but it works until it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And because the Picker House Lofts has a guarantee of 65 spaces, which was in our agreement with them, when it doesn't work, we'll know. We're not going to assign the spaces on the lot other than the 15 that are assigned to them that are inside that courtyard, which are the ADA ones for them, and that is also part of the deal with them. So they'll have 15 designated spaces. They will be signed for their use only. The other 275 spaces on the site will not have any restrictions to who can use them. And that, other than they have to have a resident pass. Mm-hmm. We do hang tags on vehicles, and if you have a resident pass, then you can park pretty much anywhere on campus. We'll have a couple spaces designated for visitor parking or for 15-minute drop-off next to the entry so you can drop off your groceries. But other than that, we have found, and we know here in this scenario, as you've mentioned, there's a lot of apartments here. We know we're going to have folks who are who have to park in the garage. But it'll be similar in that it won't be every day they're parking in the garage. Some days they'll find a space on site. Some days they'll find a space in the garage. And I can't say that we've thought through the logistics of that in terms of using the spaces off-site. Another property we have in Massachusetts, we gave passes to every resident so they could use the garage if they wanted to. If found out in that scenario, they didn't use the garage ever. They found spaces on the street and the such that here there's no real opportunities for that. So it's either on the campus or in the garage. So it's kind of a long-winded way of saying it manages itself to some degree. We have to police it. You know, we are our own. We have responsibility to, when there are issues, when we see spaces aren't turning over, aren't available, we have to be the ones who have a towing company to come out. We'll tag, we'll put stickers on cars. You know, there'll be a way to notify residents before they get towed, but it will happen, and unfortunately, that's how you have to enforce parking rules, for better or worse.
Okay. That'll be on-site security doing that, or?
Typically, it's property management doing it.
Okay. All right. So shall we move on to other areas of the plan? Okay. You can start your presentation wherever you want. How's that?
Sure.
Start over again.
Yeah, it's good as the beginning. Why not? That's good.
Seems like an ideal place to start.
We're gonna go right all the way to the start here.
Well, I won't dwell on this one. This is just a little bit about us. And Schoenberg has been doing mill renovations in towns across northern New England since 1996. This would be our 18th major mill project. We have 1,800 apartments under management, over 1 million square feet of commercial space. On this slide, you'll see quite a few of our larger projects. The Lincoln Mills in Biddeford, bottom left corner, that has 147 apartments and 33 key hotel. The Ellis factory next to that is in Haverhill, which is the one I'm speaking of. That one has 0 parking on site. The site is the building, and all of the parking is either on the city street. They have a fair amount of public on-street parking. And they also have a garage that is just out of this picture. That's also similarly to this scenario. It's a municipally owned garage. As is the one called Monadnock Mills above 3 o'clock, a project in western New Hampshire, Claremont, that has 83 apartments and a nearby city garage that is the source for all of the parking. There's no resident parking on site because, again, the building is the site. Actually, all these pictures that I'm looking at.
How's the wait list on those buildings?
What's that?
Do you find those to be issues? How's the wait list on those buildings?
Oh, wait list, great question. It's a good problem for us as landlords, and that folks need a high quality place to live, and we do have wait lists on most of our properties across the portfolio.
So those parking arrangements aren't preventing your effective use?
Oh, good question. No, they absolutely are not. Actually, I'd say at least in many cases, having a garage covered parking is a benefit. Actually, yeah, each one of those pictures on the screen now have some type of shared parking, and on the screen now, 1, 2, 3, there's 8 properties, 100, 150, 100. There's probably 800 apartments on that with some type of shared parking, and it works without any issue. The other one in Maine that we've done is the Saco Mill across from the Saco train station. That's the one project that we do have enough parking on site. So that's that slide. So we have experience. Because I sit in development and asset management, I see the process to get these projects off the ground and started. Then I also see as the ongoing stabilized operations of them, which is why I'm fortunate to be able to speak to them about logistical things like parking. I think this is just a great slide because it just shows how pretty the city of Lewiston is. This is a picture that I think we might have grabbed off the city's website. It's stunning. The location is stunning. The history with the canals, and you can see the arches to the penstocks that leave the campus are remarkable feats of engineering. So we're proud to have this project as one of our next opportunities to create a great mixed-use project. Oops. This is that perspective we were just talking about along Cedar Street And Mike, does this match what we were just showing? Generally, not
this-
quite. This is the difference, right?
This
This is
represents the original proposal, which was moving the curb
Oh, sure, this-
into the right-of-way.
you can see this is a broader
Yeah,
landscape panel here.
as you get closer to the bridge, there will be, sort of the parking lot deviates from Cedar Street as Cedar Street curves, and the landscaping will remain as shown on this plan. But as you get closer to Oxford Street, there will be fewer trees, just the ones we've shown on the latest plans.
But this picture is great, and it shows, how the windows will look, how the facades will be restored. This building that the mouse is walking across is residential. This little outbuilding here that my hand now is kind of moving across would be commercial. This corner, if you will, of Oxford and Cedar is our commercial corner, since it's facing a pretty major boulevard to the city. Here's a different perspective of that. Again, the rendered image of the building is really consistent with how it will turn out.
Are those three cupolas occupied, or is that just aesthetics
Well, which,
on the other building, on the other side?
oh, these dormers, they will be occupied. Yeah, they will be parts of apartments. And then this is what is this? The east facade of the building. So this is our main entrance at this stair tower here. You'll see the identity there with the name on it. You see this sidewalk here that's going into the foreground. That would be our main path to the garage on Chestnut Street. We have a secondary entrance, which is here behind these trees, not as prominent. That would be our commercial entrance. Yes.
Is there an alley between that direct access to the other side?
Yes, there is. There's not an existing alley there, but the top of the canal that runs across, underneath, I guess, Oxford Street, the city owns, and the city, is my understanding, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, has committed to creating a walking path to cut that block in half and create the connection to the Chestnut Street garage. Absent that, it would be a left or a right off of our campus to go around the corner.
I'll just jump in with context. So where Place St. Marie is and then Labadie's, there's a canal there. And so that would be where the walking path would be, right along that canal.
I'm trying to find an aerial. I guess it's not here, but the path is here to the next street. So this just walks us around the campus. Here's another prominent corner, another entrance. This is a stair tower that will get restored. And as you walk north around the building, it becomes all residential on all 6 floors.
Are elevators in those stair towers as well, or do they have
There
to
is an
walk?
elevator that would be centered here. And shoot, I'm forgetting where the other elevator is, but there's another elevator on the campus. Actually, it's here. It's in this middle. It's not in the stair tower, but just adjacent to the stair tower.
Okay, thank you.
And then this is a great perspective, because this is really a piece that we're excited to see come to fruition. The current courtyard has an unfortunate appeal to it. It's all paved and overgrown and not very attractive, perhaps prison yard-like. And the future is going to be this wonderful courtyard that will have a very campus feel. Mike, am I right? Is it about 2/3 of an acre, the square footage of this courtyard?
I think that sounds right, yeah.
2/3 to almost a full acre. So there's a lot of area here that will become a great green space for all the residents of the campus, as well as the residents of the Picker House lofts. And then here's an aerial view of that courtyard. The white triangles are the lawns that you saw, and the crossing paths are the sidewalks, which kind of leads to that campus feel as you see often on college or campuses, crossing paths for to get to and from common area. So over here, this is a patio that would be for the residents to enjoy. There's some amenity space that open out onto it. That's what I have there, but it's really a neat, and what's kind of also neat too, there's this connection here. There'll be a visual connection. This is a tunnel of sorts, an arched opening that runs through the building that you'll be able to have a peekaboo view of the tree line in the wintertime, in the summertime where it's green, but in the summertime looking across the parking lot, across the river. So a nice perspective as well. And because the shorter building is this one that my mouse is on, Picker House Lofts, and this one, Mill 5 here. The sun is here to the south, so this courtyard does get some sun, as you saw in that pre-photo, I think, actually. Yeah, it's not all shadows, it's sun. So that's great, too. Going back to this view here is probably a good spot just to talk about the program around the campus. Starting here at 6 o'clock, the standalone building is slated to be commercial. This building that we talked about earlier with the dormers on it is 20 apartments. This corner of the mill is commercial on the street level. And then as we walk around the mill, it becomes 100% residential. This leg of the mill, Mill 5, is not part of this proposal. It is not planned to be rehabbed. It has too many structural challenges in terms of ceiling heights and windows that we couldn't restore it and honor the Park Service requirements for restoration. We would need to add windows to it, which we would not be able to do. We would need to change the floor-to-floor dimensions, which we couldn't do and still meet historic preservation requirements. So this will be a future phase. We'll do some restoration to it to make it safe, windows and roof, but otherwise not part of the project. This building here is the one that was spoken about earlier, which is the Picker House Lofts that is owned by the Zanton companies, or an affiliate of them. And on this first floor, off of that main lobby here, the lobby will have a see-through out to the courtyard. There'll be windows and a view line. And then we have a number of resident amenity spaces on this main corridor, a package room, a mail room, like a work-from-home type room. This corner here has a club room and a kitchen that folks can use if they want to host a party that's larger than they want to host in their apartment, which we find is a great amenity on all of our projects. There's a bike room as well. With the Riverwalk there and the access to trails, it's nice to have bike rooms in our buildings, and we've done that in pretty much every one that I've been involved in the last 11 years. Where this site is served, this will kind of be my segue to hand it off to Mike. We'll know more about this, but the site is served by municipal water, sewer, storm drain. It's served by CMP and Unitil for private utilities. So we're well served with utilities. And anything else, Mike, that I should raise? Oh, I guess the other thing I should point out too, sorry, is the Riverwalk runs naturally along the river's edge. There's an easement that we have granted to the city to have that Riverwalk in public use and public access to the site along the edge there. This corner, this northwest corner, will become an interesting location that will be a nice, you see there's a broader area for seating that the city has conceptually planned, which is a great amenity. So this corner will be really energized, I think, with public use. There'll be a bridge here across the canal, again, part of the city's efforts to improve the Riverwalk. And our contribution is that we've added sidewalks around the campus on the northeast and north edge of the campus so that our residents can really take advantage of a nice loop. And if Paul Goodwin was here, our project manager, he would tell me what the number of miles it is around the circumference of the campus, but it's a nice walking loop. I want to say it's over a mile, but I could be off. That's where I turn it over to Mike. We've already talked about parking, so perhaps nothing else to talk about.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, done my job for me, Matt. Just a couple things I'll point out. And Craig mentioned these. There are a few things on the plan that that are coordination pieces with the city, and they are improvements that others will make. So for the most part, the city, and having to do with the Riverwalk. And so the Riverwalk, like Matt mentioned, this area up in the northwest corner is something the city will do. There is a viewing platform for the river kind of down in the southwest portion of the site, right adjacent to the Riverwalk. And there's another viewing platform over the canal adjacent to Oxford Street, which all those pieces came off the city's master plan. We're showing them as coordination pieces. We've noted them on all our plans as by others. So hopefully that it clarifies that they're not part of the applicant's approval necessarily. They're just for coordination with improvements the city is intending to make. What was the other thing I wanted to touch on? Oh, yeah, so let me just give a little, some quick comments on the recommended conditions of approval. For the most part, I think they're acceptable and on point. The first one Craig touched on, and I think you have an email that I provided this afternoon. Instead of requiring, there is an ongoing review for a traffic movement permit with the DOT. As part of that improvement, there may be off-site improvements to infrastructure to aid in traffic movement. As written in the packet, I believe any off-site improvements would need to be constructed before a building permit for the mill would be issued. What we're asking is that the DOT permit be in hand before a building permit's issued, but those improvements can be constructed at the same time as a building permit for the mill can be issued at the same time those off-site improvements are being constructed. And those off-site improvements have to be complete before a certificate of occupancy is granted. So it just allows the applicant a little flexibility in the timing of when those off-site improvements, which we don't fully know what they are yet, but when those take place. Okay. The second recommended condition of approval has to do with sizing of water meters, and we're working with the mechanical engineers on sizing the water services, and we're working closely with Public Works on that. So that's a completely we have no issue with that condition of approval. There will also be an easement granted to allow the water district to come read those meters. So that's kind of a standard thing. Impact fees, I don't have a comment on that one. And the fourth one, the applicant updates the landscaping plan and all other applicable plans to reflect existing conditions of the right-of-way on Cedar Street. So that's been done. Again, it's subject to you folks granting a waiver, which we are respectfully requesting. So. Okay. And that's all I have. I think we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Hopefully we've answered many of them already.
It sounds like it's going to be one heck of a fantastic project, and I can't wait for you guys to get started. Anyone on the board have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Mark.
The coordination items with the City of Lewiston, are those going to
Mark, will you pull your mic forward?
The coordination items with the City of Lewiston, are those done at the same time, or are they just done on the city's schedule? At the same time of your
meaning
building?
like the viewing platforms
Yeah.
and the Riverwalk. That's a good question. I think that maybe, I don't know, Shelley, do you have any information?
So we have in the audience Lincoln Jeffers, our Economic Development Director, and I'm sure he has some things he can update us on about that. He's been working behind the scenes on those elements. Thanks, Lincoln.
Goodness, Link.
No crutches. This is an improvement for him. He's doing great.
Yeah, we have been working with Public Works and this team from Chinburg, trying to figure out exactly how and where, when all those elements are going to go. The Riverfront Island Trail along the river, there's a federal earmark to assist with that, so I believe that will be happening concurrently. We expect most of these will be happening at the same time, so it makes sense. We don't want to have them completed, then we tear it up. So I think it makes sense to do it. Have we gotten all the way through the schedule yet? We have not.
Okay.
But that's the plan.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, Roger.
Stormwater runoff.
Roger, your microphone, please.
The stormwater runoff, is that all directed toward the northwest corner?
No. So it's kind of distributed around the site. Today there's very little formal stormwater infrastructure. It mostly sort of runs off into the adjacent canal, and on the west side it runs into the river. As the sort of formalization of the parking and pedestrian ways throughout the site, we've added catch basins and storm drains. So the area on the east side, that will go to the canal, that'll be piped into the canal on the east side. Area to the north side of the building will be collected in storm drains and piped into that canal. And the area on the west side of the building will be piped directly towards the river.
Now, any consideration with the fact that climate change has given us more torrential downpours with the volumes of water coming off these roofs?
Yeah, so we design, so I think what you're getting at is pipe sizing, right? I would say the canals in the river have capacity, but making sure the storm drains that we're installing are adequately sized, and we do look at that. I mean, we have data that's been collected by various state and federal agencies that we use for sizing of these pipes, and usually typically DOT will size pipes for a 10-year storm. We're usually sizing pipes for a 25-year storm, and so that that kind of accounts for some of those increases. But we're certainly accounting for that in every project we're designing these days.
Yeah, I know, because with the advent of all these tremendous storms we've been getting, a lot of that data has been absolutely useless.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Anyone else have any other questions? Yes, Michael?
I didn't find a letter of financial capacity in the packet.
I think there was one from Kennebunk Savings Bank.
Yeah, so I think the original application back in February.
Was that when you?
The workshop.
The workshop, because I think I found what I had on that, and I
Yep.
didn't find
So it would have been
there.
the final attachment.
Maybe I misplaced what it is.
That
you
was
had.
it was a letter from Kennebunk Savings.
Could I see that?
Sure.
I
Pass it
couldn't-
right up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, February was a long time ago.
It is.
You weren't here sometime between February and today?
We were here.
We were. Yep.
Oh, so you were here in between then, too? A month
Right.
ago?
This is their
Okay.
second time before the board.
Yeah.
Third time?
Second.
Second time.
Second.
So so we submitted this original application in February. We were here in
May.
May.
Was this available in May?
Yes, you received paper packets. We didn't have them reprint everything this time. But it is on the website, the full packet.
Maybe, because I pulled something, because I've got actually 2 of these, so that's probably May and today.
Yes.
And I thought I had everything, but maybe I've got this, okay.
I don't think there's a lot in there other than a deed and it just sort of some of those requirements that we.
Okay.
Okay, it's the last page,
Yep.
and it's from Kennebunk Savings.
Kennebunk Savings is the current lender on the project. They've been funding some of this early work as well as part of the acquisition.
And I do remember from the workshop that you mentioned it was like an $80 million project.
In total, that's right.
Yeah, in total. I found that impressive, and although I'd love to have had the trees along Cedar Street and maybe another consideration or so, I didn't have any problem with all the details except for the financial capacity. Now that I know that it was there, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Shanna.
Thanks. I'd like to explore some feedback and questions with the applicant as well as with Shelley representing the Complete Streets Committee. I'm sure there's things I might say that you might not be able to do anything but pass along. Can you go back to the graphic that showed your ideal version of the street that you've heard numerous comments about, please? That one. So there have recently been improvements made in the city of Auburn that includes significant traffic bumps that significantly and effectively slow traffic coming through the new Auburn downtown village. They've also done a number of things to kind of visually narrow the street to reduce speeds. And when we put in our own island a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now, I know that these conversations of how these link up and that ultimately it's MDOT that's going to gauge that for us. But I'm just curious, why can't we bring the curb into the street a little bit? How much travel lane is there for the car as well as for the pedestrian modes of traffic, both the Sharrow or the bike lane, depending on how we cut that, and the expended sidewalk? Not only is it visually more appealing, but I think some of the comments that the committee made come from a place that I think all of us started, an intuitive desire to have it both be beautiful, to offer some shade, to offer some protection, some meaningful protection, and some thoughtful integration of the other modes of transportation. And I just, can somebody explain more about why we got to nope, I'd like just a little bit more than that?
Sure.
Like maybe lane widths and the suggested amount of lane widths that would impact what we're talking about.
Yeah, so the comment that we got back from Jeff Foley, city engineer, which I'll have to paraphrase because I don't have it in front of me, essentially, actually it might be in the review comments back and forth that we had provided, but he was concerned about the bike lane, and so having the space for the bike lane, the travel lane, and then, as far as an island goes, I think there's a width that you can't really go down before it's not an island and you eliminate it. So, and that's relatively newly installed by DOT. So I think there was, it probably is a conversation with DOT that the city would need to have about how that would be redesigned and then kind of what a timeline for that might look like. But he didn't see any easy solution at this time, kind of between, in the few weeks where he was reviewing things and you guys are looking at this.
So I'm not surprised by that, and I don't think that it would be an easy fix. I do think it would be a worthwhile fix, both with the size of investment that is being made privately, as well as the significant economic, commercial, and residential reinvestment that'll be happening. We're a planning board that has looked at so many projects where the 1980s and 19 versions of us we're now creating remedies for, to the cost of ultimately taxpayers in the city. And so this feels like the right project and the right time, with Complete Streets Committee support and an investor and developer's support, to look for the slightly harder, not the most challenging, not the impossible, But couldn't we explore the slightly harder, longer-lasting, smart investment? And what would that take? And how could this board participate in that tonight?
Yeah, I think that really the only solution would be to eliminate the island, because otherwise we'd be eliminating a bike lane, right? I mean, I think that was, we're just looking at.
Are we already at the
limited space.
minimum travel lane for, I don't know, a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone? And could somebody say that with confidence? Because I don't start with it's the bike lane or the island. I don't know that, and I don't know that it's not, but I would love to see. So, I mean, we've done lots of analysis on actual travel lines and the amount of buffers that are needed in the bike lane. And if we were going 25 miles an hour through there, then maybe a Sharrow.
25 miles an
They
hour.
could if we took away that 4-lane boulevard across the canal just up above that ushers into it.
Yeah, I realize that.
So
but
again, we're looking, I mean, this isn't just this applicant, and we're talking about city investment both in the Riverwalk and the 3 observation places. We're talking about integrating different modes of transportation. And ultimately, this is the crown jewel at the other end of your Island Point crown jewel on the Riverfront Island Master Plan. And you are looking for, we've approved and supported the plans that look for long-term holistic approaches to the whole Riverfront Island and the pedestrian use that gets people from one end to the other. And so this is that moment that, and I'm not saying we must, I'm saying, what would it take, and could we explore something that's a little more creative and takes a little more time than we don't see an easy answer? That's fine. Could we look for a slightly challenging one and just see it? And whether that's how we advocate for MDOT, how we support this applicant in their request for reviews by MDOT, what considerations we might make to City Council as we approve this tonight, I just would like to not just sit here and be like, well, shucks, because that's been done for decades to the long-term detriment of our local economy. I'd like to have a conversation about it in a way that doesn't hold up the applicant, because this is not within their purview. If we approve this tonight as is and they can get the landscaping that they wanted in the space that was into the right-of-way, great, it's not holding up your development, but I don't want us to rubber stamp a question that deserves to be asked.
We can definitely have those conversations with other departments, absolutely.
Okay, but we should still give them the waiver tonight.
Right, I mean, I wouldn't expect Public Works to come back and find extra space that they weren't able to find.
Right.
You know, like if you're looking at the Riverfront Island Master Plan, sections that we showed, they're showing a 12-foot travel lane in the existing condition and in the proposed condition. So I'm not getting a sense that we can turn that to a 9-foot travel lane. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think we're seeing space that's available here unless that median in the road disappeared and we're literally moving a tree island from the middle of the road to the side of the road. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We're just tight on space.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is a public hearing, so I will open it up to the public. If anyone wishes to speak, please stand. You have 3 minutes. Blah, bitty, blah. Okay, nobody wants to speak. I'm going to close it and bring it back to the board. And I would entertain actually 3 motions, 1 for a waiver and then 2 for application.
I'm happy to support a motion, but before I do, in light of the note on our overall quorum size tonight, is there any concerns that the board would note that might limit a favorable vote that we should talk out?
No. I have.
Okay. Then we'll go forth and conquer, shall we?
Yes. So here's the waiver.
Yeah. Do you want me to start with that vote?
Sure. Yeah, we
Okay.
have to do the waiver first.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver request from the review criteria of Article 13, Section 4Q, landscaping for the portion of the lot along Cedar Street pursuant to Article 13, Section 3G7.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Roger, any further discussion on the board? Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Pass.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes, so that's
4-1.
4-1. 1 abstain?
No, I said pass.
Okay, pass. Okay.
None.
You want to revisit your vote?
I'll say yes.
Okay, so it's 5-0. Okay. Motion 1, or second motion.
It's the start.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion that the application submitted by Teradyne Consultants on behalf of Continental Mill LLC for the redevelopment of the Continental Mill, including the creation of 377 new rental apartments, 20,000 square feet of commercial office space, 20,000 square feet of light industrial space, and 5,000 square feet of restaurant space, all within existing structures at the Continental Mill at 2 Cedar Street, meets all of the necessary standards contained in the zoning and land use code, and grant approval for the waiver request for the review criteria of Article 3, Section 4Q.
13.
Thank you. Article 13, Section 4Q landscaping for the portion of the lot along Cedar Street pursuant to Article 13, Section 3G7.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Michael?
I'm just curious, because I was looking at it earlier. How do the two different motions differentiate between each other?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. There's only 2 motions.
Okay.
So the first one is for the waiver, and the second one is for
Oh, okay.
approval of the project.
Well, we did the waiver as a very specific from the bulleted item above.
Oh, okay.
Was that the same intent with the first motion down below?
Yeah, so when you get
Oh.
to actions necessary down below, the first one's a waiver approval, and the second one is the subdivision and development review.
So that's the official language for the vote that we just had.
Okay, so we've already voted on this one.
And that would be different than the next
Craig,
motion.
did you see a difference?
Yes. That's right, yeah, the first motion is for the waiver. The second motion approves the
project.
the development review application through Article 13, Section 4 approval criteria.
Okay.
And the reason I ask is because there were references to Article 13, Section 4 in both. Now, obviously, the second one has a Section 5 that doesn't appear in the first motion. No, so I saw a difference, but I was just trying to get my head around exactly what that difference was.
Okay, so we've actually done the first motion, the first one.
I think that the difference, and I don't know that we're over motioning even if we do both, but the first one is specifically for the waiver and the second is for the whole application.
Correct.
Which includes a waiver of which we already approved and can now include.
Yeah, I think we need to approve it as it was written under the actions necessary.
Okay, all right.
So both and.
Both.
Right.
It's not over, but it's protecting the process.
Sure. So we've got a motion.
On the floor.
And we have a second, and now we've had discussions. So is that it? Okay, we're all set. Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Motion 3, actually.
I'd like to make a motion that the application submitted by Teradyne Consultants on behalf of Continental Mill LLC for the redevelopment of the Continental Mill, including the creation of 377 new rental apartments, 20,000 square feet of commercial office space, 20,000 square feet of light industrial space, and 5,000 square feet of restaurant space, all within existing structures at the Continental Mill at 2 Cedar Street, meets all of the necessary standards contained in the zoning and land use code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4, approval criteria, and Section 5, coordination with state subdivision law, and that approval be granted with the following conditions. I get my language. Right here. The first condition is that the applicant receives a traffic movement permit from MDOT prior to issuance of a building permit and completes all required mitigation measures prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. The second is that the applicant provides size specifications for the water meters in order to determine impact fees and provides an access easement for the purpose of reaching each of these water meters. Third, that the applicant pay any impact fees required prior to the issuance of permits. And lastly, the applicant updates the landscaping plan and all other applicable plans to reflect existing conditions of the right-of-way on Cedar Street.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. Happy building.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to seeing the project proceed. Yes?
May I ask a question?
You may certainly ask a
Is
question.
there, this is part Mr. Connor and part applicant. Is there any way for us to, I hear you saying there's not square footage. I don't see a plan that says there isn't, so I'm just looking. Can we write a letter that recommends a thorough look and expresses the importance and connection to our overall Riverfront Island master plan? Like, is there a step beyond here that we can take that still supports the motions that we just approved?
I believe so.
We've written letters to city council advocating for things.
The
I feel
board,
like.
you're happy to write a letter. We can do what we need to do to support that.
And we're happy to work with Public Works on achieving that. I mean, I think we would all like to see
something
that
look a little bit
that look
nicer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
It's just,
okay. Yeah. Maybe we can I mean, this is not going to happen overnight, so we have time to create a letter and and get it out. So thank you very much, gentlemen. It sounds like a fantastic project. I'm really, as I said, I'm really looking forward to it.
thanks for your support.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Next public hearing. JJ and L2 LLC and J&AH LLC have submitted a development review application for the conversion of 145 Lisbon Street, the professional building, into 20 residential units and 2 commercial units. Shelley.
Okay. So this is an existing building at 145 Lisbon Street. The building is 7 stories tall. It also has a basement. It's currently been used for office space. It essentially takes up the whole property, the whole parcel of land. And it's in the Centerville zoning district. It's also in the design district overlay. And the proposal is a conversion of the use to residential apartments as well as commercial spaces. So it would be a mixed-use building. And there's some very minor changes to the exterior of the building. I mean, I think they're minor in the grand scheme of things. As well as some changes to the pavements and stairs around the building to support better access into the building and ADA accessibility. So to describe the exterior changes to the building, there are changes to the main entrance on Lisbon Street to allow essentially a ramp within the sidewalk pavement, as well as then there would be a stair or 2 that would have to be created on the other side of the ramp in front of the front door. And then on the adjacent street, I can't remember what the street is. Ash, thank you. On Ash Street, there's currently a staircase that goes along Ash Street. It's a pretty steep street. They're looking to rebuild that staircase and put in a door where there's a window, so the entrance into the building would change on that side of the street, and then another window further down on the building would become a door for an access from the sidewalk. In addition, with that change to the staircase, there's a window that would need to be bricked up because of where the stairs will hit the building. They'll be raised up against the window. So those are the primary changes to the exterior of the streets, the sidewalk area adjacent to the building, and then also to the building itself. Because this building, similar to the one we just talked about, is a historic building, there's no parking requirements under our ordinance for the building. They are close to a parking garage, so certainly they could accommodate parking there, but there are no requirements. There are also no parking spaces currently on site, existing or proposed. Even though it's in the design district, the degree of changes that are proposed to the building, staff believes really doesn't trigger review. Similar to the building you just saw, there's such minor changes that if we were to delve into the design district requirements for the architecture, you'd potentially be having them redesign the exterior of the building, which we don't want to do because it's historic. There is in Article 13, Section 8, there are some requirements related to residential developments that are multifamily. And so there were two portions of that, number 1 and number 3, in that section that they have asked for waivers from. The first one relates to open spaces with projects, and then the second one relates to amenity space. And because this is a project where the building is being reused and is entirely, the parcel is entirely the building, there's really no opportunity for them to comply with the amenity space requirements. And we do have waiver language in here that you can use to approve those waivers. So at this point in time, the suggestions for approval criteria, they will need to go to the Historic Preservation Review Board for the exterior changes, so just noting that. They didn't include the exterior lighting that they're proposing in the package, so just to notate that that needs to be fully cut off. Proof of financial capacity has not been provided from a lending institution, so that would be need to be provided. They do show those sidewalk improvements and street improvements on their site plan, of course. My suggestion is that there be a condition that states that that work is optional because it's not required by the ordinance. And typically when we have a site plan that gets approved, then we're enforcing that that's required to be done. But in this case, we want it to be optional because there may be some hardships with the applicant being able to do that at this point in time. Funding for that hasn't been worked out between the city and the applicant. And then finally, there is an area underneath the pavement on Lisbon Street under the sidewalk where there's an underground oil tank. And the recommendation is just that DEP be contacted, and if there's any requirements for leaving it there or abandoning it, that they be followed.
Okay.
Has there been confirmation that that oil tank is dry?
Not yet.
How do we find that out?
Essentially opening the cap and doing a stick test.
Could you identify yourself for
Hi, sorry,
the
yes.
record? That's okay.
That's okay. I'm Jason Hutchins, representative of the applicant, J&H LLC.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So if there's oil in there, what happens?
Recommendation would be to pump it to get it as dry as we can. But from the professionals I've had to look at it, their guess is it is in fact empty, but I do not have confirmation on that. It's a very old, large tank that's down there that has not been in use for many of years. So yes, but that's our path we are looking to take.
And if I could just interject as well, Public Works has toured and inspected it and has been in touch with the Maine Department of Environmental Protection as to what's the best strategy to go forward. So question's been asked, and I don't think they've gotten back to us yet. Hope is that it would just simply be allowed to be abandoned in place.
Okay.
Wouldn't there be some possibility of leakage in the future?
Well, and as Jason had said, to make sure that it has been drained, the fact that it's probably hasn't been used for 20, 30 years. I don't think there's been any evidence of leakage, but that would be confirmed, and typically you don't just leave it as an empty vessel. You would fill it with sand. So, but we have not gotten direction from the Maine DEP. They may say, nope, you got to pop it, but they just did the sidewalks a few years back. They probably have a moratorium and would prefer not to tear up the sidewalks. So hopefully it's kind of you hope it's a non-issue. It's just a tank that's been there for a very long time.
Right.
Right, and
it was
not
made
leaking.
in place. That's the thing too. It was not a tank that was brought in. It was made in place.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, that's the kind of stuff they did back then. They didn't have,
And it's
any
not-
way to get it in there if it was built, so they site-built all those stuff.
And it's humongous. It's not a small oil tank.
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone else have any questions? So if you wish, why don't you give us, you know, a walk around? There is one thing. I noticed that on the plans, it said you're taking the fire escapes off.
Mm-hmm, correct.
Aren't you supposed to have fire escapes for a
Yeah, so we're going to get rid of those fire escapes because we're going to put an interior second means of egress staircase.
Oh, okay. All right, that's why the second
Yeah.
staircase.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
thank you.
figured that works better and just aesthetically looks better, and, yeah, so that's
Okay.
what we're doing there.
Yeah, so if you would like to give us your presentation, that would be fantastic.
Sure, we'll start kind of with the site here, just so you guys get an idea of where we're talking about and some of those improvements. So this is looking down at Ash Street, top of the paper, Lisbon Street on the right, and then Canal Street on the back. Our front entrance currently and will be the same as on Lisbon Street, and the sidewalk going down on Ash Street, and then looping down to Canal, connected to the Hartley block there next to us. So that gives us the overview. This is the view discussing that ramp we're adding to the front of the building. Currently, there's about a 4-inch step there. So we're proposing a landing coming off of the exterior of the building and then ramping down to the side with a railing in place next to that ramp, and then a one step probably coming down front and back. And we'll figure that out as we kind of go a little bit. Besides that, that sidewalk stays the same. You loop around the corner. Just to give you a lay of the land here. Where my mouse is, there's currently a window. The plans show it. This is where we're adding a second means of, well, this is where it's going to be, the commercial space is going to be accessed. So a window there is going to become a doorway. The reason for that is because we like to keep the main entrance for the residents separate from the commercial space. We have that as secure entrance, so you can only get into the property if you live there. Then you come down. This just shows some of the improvements, showing that ramp with the handrail in place. And then now we're talking about what we were just highlighting there. So the front door here, which I'm showing, like I said, that's going to be the main entrance for the residents. We'll come off there with the platform and the ramp going towards the Hartley block. So you're not going downhill, obviously, when you come off that ramp, and then you'll be able to loop around to access that sidewalk. This window here, and it already kind of, you can see, is already kind of outlined to be that second door we're going to put in place. That will be to grade level, so we will not need a ramp there. And then that staircase coming down Ash Street and the sidewalk is what we were looking to improve with the city there to make that a little bit safer and more appealing, just user-friendly there. The exterior of the building is pretty much going to stay the same. Everything, you know, the brick will be cleaned and pointed as needed. Anything structurally on the exterior will be done. Windows will all be replaced to match the historic windows. I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe these are pretty close to what was there historically. These are not the original windows. At one point, this where I'm kind of cutting through these taller windows, this was one floor, meaning it went from the first floor to the third floor. At one point, they divided this floor here and put a floor in. That's what gives us the 7 stories complete up through. So we will be improving these windows, not replacing, but they will stay historically and improved to today's standards with that floor system in place. Our commercial space that we're proposing, or one of 2, is on the first floor. Again, you'll enter from this new door, and you'll come about halfway down the building. We have 2 apartments on this back set of this first floor for ADA and just what we think best suits the building. If you continue down the staircase, there's an existing doorway there. We'll have a proposal to have a second unit down there as well for commercial/retail space. And then the rest of the floors will be apartments, 3 per. The apartments are pretty similar as you go up, so a unit in the front, a unit in the middle, and a unit in the back. The building is set up that when you come into the foyer, there's an elevator. We'll be improving that elevator, goes all the way up, and then it's a side load hallway, meaning on the opposite side of these windows, it's a hallway that runs the length of the building. That's staying intact, and then we're adding that staircase about 2/3 of the way down. And then when I get to the plans here, that staircase is gonna exit onto Canal Street. So that's all existing.
Did we have that?
Yeah, we don't have that.
We don't have.
So I don't have any internal floor plans.
Yeah, we didn't give you all the
Can
floors.
you go back up where there's some red
Just
and
one
stuff?
or like some
I'm gonna
sample
get, those
units?
are
We just have
existing.
external.
Those are just existing, so I'm gonna get to the floor plans. This is showing existing conditions.
Okay.
So this is what the building currently is, so, sorry, I can show you this if this helps. They're, pretty much the floors are all similar. So you come up the elevator here, I'm on Lisbon Street, going up and down here, Ash Street with the windows is continuing here. So you come up this elevator, there is a staircase that is existing there, historic, that will stay in place. And we'll show in here, this becomes fire protected with doorways, concealing that. And then we are adding, so the hallway continues down now, we're adding a staircase that's gonna start about here, and take this area up, that will go down. And then this is the back of the building here. Would you like to see the first floor existing, or are you okay? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'd like to see the proposed.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's what I'm gonna do.
Making sure that there's an adequate amount of square footage or how many bedrooms in
Yep.
each unit is
Yep.
stuff we customarily see.
We're getting there. Sorry, doing the slow technique there. Okay, so let's go to the first floor. Here's the first floor. So kind of give you the lay of the land. Front door entrance here, comes into our apartment entrance foyer. This staircase that you're seeing here goes up to the second floor as well, going down to the basement. That will stay intact, being historic. Most of this foyer as well will stay intact, being marble and having other features that will be there. This hallway is existing, that will stay there and get us to these back apartments as well as the second means of egress. And then this is the door we're proposing to get us into that commercial space. The commercial space is about 500 square feet. So envisioning some sort of retail. Not entirely sure what that plan will be, but that's what we're proposing. With 2 apartments on this floor, so one bedroom. They're all 1 bedrooms, ranging from about 400 square feet to just under 600 square feet, or right around 600 square feet. This floor having the 2, these would be ADA, as they are shown. And then this is that new staircase that's going in. And then the staircase will have fire door protection. So if we continue up to the second floor now, and this is, will be a little bit different than the remaining floors, because you can see this staircase that is now coming up to this area, and then it's going to loop us around to the rest of the staircase that's existing. So the elevator entrance, fire protected, a unit in the front of the building here, 1 bedroom, living space, tons of windows. And then we have a middle unit here, same 1 bedroom, kitchen, living space, bathroom, new staircase coming into our rear units are our biggest units, 1 bedroom, living, kitchen, bathroom space. And then when we continue up to the 3rd floor, this will stay consistent up through the building. So if we start at the front now, you can see we're into this staircase. So because of some code and fire restrictions, we had to have this corridor here that keeps some fire safety things intact. So this hallway, you'll come into the kind of a vestibule area, fire protected for this staircase and the elevator, and then a hallway to get you into the front unit. 1 bedroom, living, kitchen, bathroom, just a corridor, middle unit, bedroom, living, kitchen, bathroom. And then you come into this unit here, nice hallway, bedroom, living, kitchen, bathroom, and then our staircase. And like I said, that continues up to the 7th floor.
Nice.
So as you can see, units, tons of windows. It's going to make these, I think, really high demand, nice architect. The building, I'm not sure if you've been inside before, but has a great presence. It was originally a federal bank, so a really cool architect that we're going to keep in place. Obviously, bring it up to today's standards. The building requires to be, it's classified as a high-rise. We have a few things in there that fall into place to make sure we get all the code requirements for that. And yeah, we're excited for this project. I think the one thing that came up is the financial not having a proof of financial. We're still working through that. Our goal is to keep this project going. It's been a little bit of a delay for us getting these plans, working through the town with stuff, but we want to keep it moving forward. We have no doubt that we are going to be able to get this going with financial. It is a historic project, so if you're not familiar with that, there's credits that come into place, federal and state. Dealing with those become a little bit of a challenge for some banks and institutes, so that's one thing we're working with, but I feel confident we're not going to have an issue, hopefully getting this project started soon. But again, we've been working on this and we want to keep it moving forward, so I'd like to get this phase done because that's going to just get us one step closer with the banks and our project to get to the permitting phase. And to be honest with you, typically I wasn't used to having that part for this proposal. Usually subdivision approval, we get that, and the permitting kind of falls into place with some of that stuff, so that's a little bit on me as well to not have that in place quite yet. But again, I want to get this project moving forward, so that's why we're here to hopefully do that.
Great. Any questions from the board for the applicant? No? Okay. This is a public hearing, so I will open it up to the public. Sorry. And does anyone wish to speak for or against? Mr.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not really the public, but I do want to speak in favor of this
Okay.
project. Mr. Hutchins has been working at this for a couple of years. He's had some challenges with the whole high-rise. It's one of the few high-rises in the city that has a whole nother element. So we had to deal with the fire department, and the state fire marshal's office has dealt with ADA. So the project has evolved over the last few years, but I suspect most of you have probably been in the building. It's a very cool building. So it'll be, you know, there's lots of brass accents and marble and these beautiful stairways. And the fact that he's preserving that, I know the historic preservation folks were excited to see it. So to have it go from kind of a Class B, C office building that's just kind of served its purpose but has not really had any new investment in quite a few years, we're delighted to see this level of investment. And the number of housing units has grown from 17 up to 20. So.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic.
How old is the building?
I'm sorry.
How old is the building?
1912?
1912?
Yes.
1912, so it's 102 years old?
Yeah.
My house was built in 1912. It has
112
nowhere
years
near
old.
the same amount of marble.
No, I'm sure it doesn't.
Not even close.
Not even close.
No.
Okay. Okay, in that case, I will close it to the public, bring it back to the board, and either entertain comments, questions, or motions. We have 3 motions. We have 2 waivers and a motion, correct?
Two motions with conditions.
Well, we've got two waivers.
One, I think I wrote it as one waiver, but you could take them separately if you would prefer.
Okay, well,
Is there anything needed beyond the actions necessary? The 2 paragraphs in the actions necessary?
No, just the conditions of approval would go with the second motion.
Right.
Okay,
essentially.
then,
Is there any discussion that we want to have before a motion is made?
no, doesn't look it. Michael?
The chair mentioned something about potentially 2 motions out of the
Well,
first one.
I misread, it's one
It was
motion
written
that's
as
got
one.
everything
Yeah,
in
I
there.
understood it was written as one.
Yep.
But looking at my concerns, I might vote differently if it was separate. Open space versus amenity area.
Well,
Not that it'll make it much difference in the end.
okay.
And then we're going to charge ahead?
Go ahead,
All
charge
right,
ahead.
let's do it.
Let's move.
I'd like to make a motion that the application submitted by Jason Hutchins on behalf of JJ and LII or 2? 2 LLC and J&AH LLC for a conversion of 145 Lisbon Street into 20 residential units and 2 commercial units meets all of the necessary criteria contained in Article 13, Section 8, additional standards for certain residential developments, and that the waiver request for open space and amenity area be granted pursuant to Article 13, Section 3 and Section 8, because the project involves the reuse of an existing building and already developed site.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and further discussion? Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
Abstain.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. So we have 4 yes and 1 abstain. Second motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the application submitted by Jason Hutchins on behalf of JJ and L2 LLC and J and AH LLC for conversion of 145 Lisbon Street into 20 residential units and 2 commercial units meets all of the necessary criteria contained in the Zoning and Land Use Code, including but not limited to Article 13, Section 4, approval criteria, Section 5, coordination with state subdivision law, and that approval be granted with the following conditions. Exterior changes to the building be granted a certificate of appropriateness by the Historic Preservation Review Board prior to the issuance of a building permit. Any new exterior lighting will be fully cut off. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, proof of financial capacity will be provided. Work shown in the right-of-way is optional and must be coordinated with the city. MDEP will be contacted regarding the underground oil tank and any requirements be met to their satisfaction.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy?
Yes.
Michael Marcotte?
No.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
And Lucy Bisson, yes. Can we have Mr. Marcotte?
Letter of financial capacity.
Okay. And
I
on,
think he saw that coming.
and on the motion for the waiver?
I abstain because if it had been separated, I probably would have voted in favor of open space because there's none. But I've had the discussions, board members might remember, I didn't even like the reduction of amenity space in code, let alone waiving it here. So that would have been a different outcome if it was separated, not for me, but not for the result.
Okay.
Because you've been approved.
Okay, great. Thank you. Have good luck, and looking forward to seeing progress on that project.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Okay, so now we're at other business. Polylabs, the owner of 745 Webster Street, Lot 16, and 765 Webster Street, Lot 17 of the Lewiston Industrial Park, has submitted a subdivision amendment to adjust the lot line between Lot 16 and 17 of the existing subdivision. Shelley?
All right, so this is a change to an existing subdivision, the Lewiston, industrial, subdivision. And they are looking to take some of the land from Lot 17 of that subdivision and add it to Lot 16, the purpose being to provide road frontage and street access for Lot 16 on
Forestall Street.
Thank you so much. Forestall Street. You see, I'm searching for.
You seem to be struggling a little bit
exactly.
there.
So there's no changes at this time proposed to the development itself. It's really just a lot line adjustment between those two lots. Staff reviewed them, and there's no issue with frontage or lot size, existing impervious, any of that with the change. It's a 0.14 acre piece of land that they're talking about moving, and the plan is shown up on the screen right there where you can see that hatched area is what they're looking at taking from Lot 17 and adding it to Lot 16. 16 is the one on the left side. So because of the minor nature of this, staff is considering this a de minimis subdivision plan amendment. And per the code, That would only require a finding of concurrence from the board, and then signature of the subdivision plan by the chair. It doesn't require thorough review by the board and a motion of that nature.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions of the applicant? Would you identify yourself for the record?
Hi, I'm Chris Chandler. I'm the general counsel for Polylabs.
Okay. I'm just nosy. Are they going to sell lot 16, or are you going to use it for?
Well, we don't really, we're kind of keeping our options open. There's a possibility of a solar farm. There's a possibility of selling it for further industrial development.
Okay, all right.
And really, this is to give us better access, because the original plan had only a 25-foot strip going in on that side off of Forestal Street, which is where most people go in.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? This is not an open, Mr. Lincoln.
Actually, Mr. Chandler just said what I was
Jeffers.
hoping would be said. It was really to get access onto that second parcel. It's sort of wet off of Webster Street.
Yep.
We have tried to push this lot multiple times, and that's always been the stumbling block. So from a development side, it makes a lot of sense to make this change. So
Okay.
just wanted to add that, even though there was no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marcotte?
Well, I'm hoping that Mr. Jeffers can develop it, turn it into a tax-paying piece of property for the individual who owns it or manages it, and it improves the tax revenue for the city of Lewiston.
That's always the goal. These folks have been paying taxes on it, but yeah, we need some development on it to really have it make.
This would create easier and, what's the other word?
Access.
Easier access.
Well,
to that
there is no
property.
access at this point, correct?
There is on Webster Street, but
from
Lincoln
Webster.
said it's wet.
Technically off of
so.
Webster Street, my understanding from our engineers is that's just not ideal.
No.
Not if you're
I
looking
mean,
at light industrial and anything more than little pickup trucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I drive by there all the time, and it's not, yeah, Webster Street's not a
So
good
there's
place.
absolutely no access from Westminster,
Forestall.
Forestall or Westminster?
No, it's Forestall.
Well, Forestall turns into
Well,
turns into
it's the
Westminster.
corner.
Yeah. So that whole corner is actually lot 17 right now.
Well, you can see at the very bottom, Mike, there's a tiny little sliver that isn't
Tiny little
hatched.
sliver. It's probably not even the size of a driveway.
So it's not,
It's very,
yeah, it wouldn't be sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, just from a technical standpoint, trying to make that, it would be like more than a 90-degree turn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough corner to go around, and people are moving pretty fast usually.
Sounds miserable with a box truck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if no other comments, I would entertain a finding. Yes, Mr. Marcotte?
Make a finding that the amendment to the Lewiston Industrial Park subdivision for Lot 16, 745 Webster Street, and 17, portion of 765 Webster Street, is a de minimis change as per Article 13, Section 3K of the Zoning and Land Use Code.
Do we need a second? Yes, okay, I'll need a second. Roger? And any further discussion? No. Roger Dupree?
Yes.
Mark Roy, excuse me. Michael Marcotte?
Yes.
Shanna Cox?
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. And the plan's over there, and I will sign it before I leave.
Great, thank you very
Okay.
much.
I didn't sign it before because
Good
it
luck.
wasn't passed. Okay, so the next item is reading of the minute, we need a motion to adopt the minutes of May 13th.
When did we receive a copy of them?
We received a copy yesterday, today. Friday. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Friday. They were there, I read them, they looked okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion
Okay, to accept.
to adopt the minutes from May 13th, 2024.
Okay, do I have a second? Roger, okay. Any further discussion? Roger Dupree,
Yes.
Mark Roy,
Yes.
Michael Marcotte,
Abstain.
Shanna Cox,
Yes.
Lucy Bisson, yes. And a motion to adjourn.
So moved. It doesn't have to be me. You guys can
Yeah,
get in on the
well,
adjournment
you know,
too,
it's
for
like-
sure.
Yeah, I know.
Who's with me?
Okay.
Got a second?
Second.
Great.
Okay, all those in favor, good.
Aye.
And Adios, and I'm gonna go sign that. Oh,
For you and your shredding purposes, my paper clips to be reused are inside the yellow folder. Just tear up your machinery. Linda, great to have you back.
Thank you.
Would you like a Sharpie or would you like a sweet fountain pen?
I've never used a fountain pen. Well, I haven't used
They
it.
pay you fountain pen money? Nope, that's your home pen. Feel ya.
Anybody shut this down? Don't.
Okay, I will.
I said it once and Craig did. And
I
today
will
is
guard it so that he doesn't, no one touches
10.
it.
Yeah.